But this needs to be reoccurring. It's not just today,
one time, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just today. This needs to be practiced every day, and it's not going to change unless we show we really care about these kids, and it's not just saying that. It's not just getting them locked up, that's not going to change anything, because it's people with poverty every day, don't have nothing to eat, don't have no place to sleep. So what they going to do?
Right.
And then when they get in trouble, what else they going to do? Because you're a statistic then. Nobody, he's a loser, so who cares about the loser?
Thank you for your honesty tonight. I appreciate that. Marley?
Brian, tonight we're hearing a lot about the problems, but we're also hearing a lot of ideas. A lot of people want to share what needs to be done. There's a charge here tonight, that everyone needs to come together. But I was also talking with somebody, this is going to be a familiar voice for us, Robert S. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
What is some of the things that you see as a problem? You were mentioning, Facebook and all the social media.
Yes, when I was growing up, our parents couldn't read our mind, and we knew not even to cross our eyes at them. Today, the parents have the privilege of going on Facebook and this digital media. We did a thing on it with News Center 8 about 4 or 5 years ago with Brad Edwards, letting people know that your children are putting the gang signs, the marijuana, the guns on video. Here 5 years later, there's even more. And you might even ask Chief Belk about some of the things he sees when he, has to investigate these crimes. You would not believe some of the things that parents are letting their children do online. A lot of these crimes are on Facebook before they even happen when it comes to threats. Also, when it comes to one program that hasn't been mentioned, we can wait for Governor Snyder to give us some money for some programs. The first program I had was my father giving me the Bible. After Adam and Eve, the apple was bit. That was the program that really set us up on what we're supposed to do on earth. Malcolm X in prison, the first program he really had that brought him to redemption was the Quran. So, and I agree with everything everybody said here, and it takes all of us to get behind those. I just want to add those programs for some of the things that parents can do immediately while they're waiting for the cavalry. The police in prison should be the last place for discipline. That discipline has to start in the home.
Robert S., thank you. I know you've been raising your hand tonight. You wanted to share something. What's your name?
Ari Wade. Two influences that I wanted to touch on were the glamorization of the street life. I grew up in the inner city in the Baxter communities, and we, as young women, we glamorized the guys with the newest clothes on, that could pick us up at high school in the cars and the rentals and all of the things that came with the street life, and I fell victim to it. I had 2 kids with a drug dealer, and my daughters are 6 and 7 and haven't seen their dad outside of prison. He's doing 10 years now, and I want to speak on behalf of the young ladies who glamorize that type of man, and our young women are feeding into what they do. They feed into the life they live, and the men react off of what the women see in them, and our young ladies are a part of the peer pressure, because they're not talking to the lame guys who are in the books, going to school, doing normal things that we wouldn't want our young girls to like. They're not seeing that in them. They want the strong, hood, rich kind of guy who has cred in the streets, and that right there is ruining our children, because they're having babies by them. And they're raising these babies by men who are not raising the babies, and they're having the babies with men that are going to prison and into the grave, and their children are being raised without a father or looking up to another man who's probably in the streets. And it's scary because it's a cycle that's been going for so long, and now our 13 and 14-year-old parents are 30, and
Right.
they raise their kids from 15 to 15. Now they're 30 and they have a teenager, and it's happening too much. And our young women have to find a new cool. Our young women have to find, they have to have a mind shift and realize that this is not the type of man for them. They need to realize that we, our young women, we need to respect ourselves and the people who we keep company with. And I think that was one of the motivations for our young men is to get the girls, because the guys who are out here, they get all the girls. My cousins, they get all the girls. I mean, calling, and that's all it is.
The cause and effect there.
Yeah, and our music as well. I've watched my teenagers in the school I worked at, like, do their homework on the computer, because it was an alternative school, and they're listening to rap music. And I don't want to say, our rap music is just terrible, but there's some music out there that really trains these young men to be killers. And I don't want to say any names, but they are training our young men to have that cold heart and say, hey, it's okay to kill. It's okay to walk around with this gun because somebody has one. They're going to kill you. And every day they're listening to it as they do their schoolwork, as they sleep, as they eat. And it's embedded into their head. What goes in your head becomes you. And what's coming out of your mouth is you're speaking into your life. And they say it, they see it, they hear it, and it's scary. And we need to take over our children's headphones. We need to take over their iPods. And we need to take over what we let come into our children's head. We cannot monitor all the time, but...
Right. But you're saying it's being glamorized.
It is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And on that note, we saw what just a couple of years ago, California had tried to ban certain violent video games that were being sold to kids, and that didn't pass. And so you wonder, how you respond with this. Now, Nadia, you had something that you wanted to say.
I just wanted to respond to her because I think that she's right. So I'm gonna take off my Kellogg hat and put on my community hat. I was a teen mom. I was 14 when I got pregnant, and I was determined not to let my life end up just like you described. So at the same time that these young men are listening to the music, the young women are listening to it too, and they know that they are body parts, and they dress and they act the part, and they allow themselves to be used by these young men. And if women would stand up in our community, this is a hometown locker room conversation. If women would stand up and set the standard, then the men would stop. They would get in line right away because we look good. Get in line. Yes, ma'am. So I decided after I had the child, my son, and he'll be 21 in a couple weeks. I said, okay, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna focus on my schoolwork. I'm gonna go to college. And let me tell you what it was. So we keep talking about it's the parents. We keep going to the individual, but we gotta go deeper than that. What stopped me from fighting, from bullying, from out there doing what I do, hanging on, because I didn't have any aspirations to go to college until I had my son. So God sent him to me. I know he did. I had to know myself. We have to know ourselves. Who are we? Separate from somebody coming to rescue, Governor Snyder coming to give you budget dollars for da-da-da-da-da. Come get my card after this meeting, I'm going to give you some money from Kellogg, da-da-da-da-da. It's not really about that. It really is about who are we. When I understood who I was and where I came from and what my culture brings and the strength and the power in that, I no longer had the need to slap my girlfriend in the face. I no longer looked at my brother with disgust. I loved him because I saw him as an extension of me. Now, I'm from Ben Harbor, by way of Illinois. All right. And I've shared this. I don't see people in Grand Rapids. I don't see the African American community coming together in the way that I've just never met in a community like this, where people are disengaged. I'm so excited that the lives that were lost aren't going to be lost in vain, that people are feeling energized and they want to get up and they want to change this community. And it can be done. Do you know how small the geographic location is? It can be done. There are enough, look at all the richness around in this community, surrounding you. You can see downtown and the $1 billion that was spent there from any place in the neighborhood. There are resources here. We have to teach our kids who they are. Who they are. The people who stand before them need to understand who they are so they can tell them who they are. When they understand where they came from, if you don't know anything about our history, you can't pour into them, and you're fearful of our kids, then you have to get from around them. Because that's violence too. When my children can't see people who look like them in powerful positions that can pour in them and not afraid of them, but can really tell them, this is who you are, this is what your expectation is, I don't want to see anything less than that, then you're being violent towards my child.
Nadia, thank you so much. Strong words tonight. I want to bring law enforcement into this discussion as well. Wyoming Police Chief Carmody, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know, we heard here tonight some people saying that there's a disconnect between police and the kids, between police and the community. What's your response to that?
Well, I think there's accuracy in that assessment. We lack, as resources, you know, in the state of Michigan, we're less than 4,000 officers fewer today than there were 8 years ago. We need the community more than ever. We need to reach out to the community. We need to connect. And we can quote Robert Peel, who was basically the godfather of law enforcement, if you will, and he said it very succinctly that the police are the people and the people are the police, and that's what we're looking for today. I'm hearing that today. I'm encouraged by what I'm hearing, is that this is a problem that's going to be solved by all of us. When you look at the statistics, and they're scary, that on average 18 to 20 young people between the ages of 10 and 24 are murdered every day in our country. If there was a food or a device or a toy that had that kind of a death toll, the country would galvanize, the country would come together and deal with that. That's not a number that we should just play off. That's a number we have to grasp. I'm sitting next to this young lady here and listening to the sorrow of the loss of her son. Her son will never come back. And I think that really speaks to what we're dealing with is these kids have to understand the permanency of death and the actions of their violent behavior. And we need to work with the community to recruit. I hear from the people that we have to have people in positions that represent the community, the diversity of the community. And we want to reach out to the community from that perspective and help recruit young men into the law enforcement field and young women. We know that they're horribly underrepresented, and we want to reach out to the community and say, help us recruit, help people look at our profession as something that's honorable and that they want to be a part of. So I encourage people to speak to that as well, and we're certainly listening today.
Thank you so much, Chief Carmody.
I know everyone's been energized by this discussion. We certainly have here at 24 Hour News 8, but we're going to have to wrap it up. But before we do, we have one last question and comment here. Sir, your name?
My name is Mo McCoy. I don't really have a question. I just have a statement. I just want to, anybody that's watching, just think of the consequences that happens when someone shoots someone, they die. I work closely with Gillespie Funeral Home. I see where they end up. And then I see the mother and the sisters and the brother. I was upstairs from the funeral home. No one was in there but the bodies. And I heard this cry, and I didn't know what it was. Ran downstairs, there was a mother just weeping. And you don't see the consequences that happens. One goes to jail, one is laying there dead permanently, you know. So I just want to say, think of the consequences. It's real. It's real.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. This was a great discussion tonight, and like everyone's been saying, this is a starting point or a continuation of the dialogue, and we'll continue that dialogue here at 24 Hour News 8, and it will continue in this community, and we'll continue to follow it. And we hope that everyone's pulled something away from this tonight, and I think I feel that too.
I definitely do, and I think that we definitely feel more energized as the evening has gone on, and we appreciate all of the input that we've received via the emails, the phone calls that have come into the newsroom as well, and all of these people that have been able to join us here tonight. We thank you all for being a part of this very important community discussion.